Welcome to Gospel Tangents, the best source for Mormon history, science, and theology. I'm Rick Bennett. Have you ever wanted to go to Brent Ashworth's collectibles, where it's almost a museum? He's got a lot of old books and things. Well, guess what? We're going to go visit Brent and see a lot of his Americana, of course, Mormon history documents and that sort of a thing. And oh, you know what? He gave me a Mark Hoffman check. I was really excited about it. So anyway, come with me and we're going to check out Brent's bookstore. Hey everybody, I just pulled up to Brent Ashworth's. We are going to get a tour of B. Ashworth's, his kind of museum / bookstore. And I'm here in Provo, Utah. So we're going to be walking in. I'm going to take you along with me, and we're going to see all the cool stuff. Well, not all of it, because he's got way too much. But we're going to see a lot of this cool stuff, both LDS and non-LDS. So come along with me as we go visit. I'm not sure if you can see the signs behind me, but this is University Avenue here, and then this is 100 North. So we're just a little bit south of that intersection here. And we're walking here into Brent Ashworth's. It's in the basement. And so here we go. Okay, so it's part of the Provo Town Square. You can see, in fact, right up here, B. Ashworth's rare books, relics, curiosities, and collectibles. And so here we're walking in here, and we're going to take a quick left. You can actually get lunch here at whatever this place is. Looks like they got some Caesar salads. I'm going to go down the stairs. And you can see we're heading the right way. We'll go down this hall. Oh, here's the social open for lunch. And look at that. Who's that?
How you doing?
I'm doing good. Well, here we are at Brent Ashworth's Rare Books, Relics, Curiosities, and Collectibles. We're going to take a tour.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Come on in. Let's see a few things.
We got a few things in here. Holy cow.
Yeah.
You are definitely a collector.
We'll start with Brigham Young's certificate. That's his oath of office as
Whoa.
president of ZCMI. Be careful. Watch your step. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Got stuff.
All right, let me get in close here.
Yeah.
This is what again?
That's Brigham Young's oath of office as president of ZCMI.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And down here, you can kind of see there's a Salt Lake Temple picture.
Okay.
And this is a full plate picture, which was done in 1892. Now, the reason that's important in full plates is the camera had bigger than the plate at the time.
Oh, my goodness. So that was a huge camera.
So this is what the camera would have looked like.
Oh, my gosh. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. This was run on a rail car. This is a full plate camera.
That's unbelievable.
Isn't that something? I've got half plate pictures, and they'd be about half that size. But the technology wasn't there to make them smaller.
And now I'm holding the camera in my hand.
Yeah, until after 1900. Yeah.
And it's way better quality, too.
Yeah, you bet. And so full plate, I've only had 3 full plate pictures. I've had 2 of the Salt Lake Temple.
What do you think the dimensions are on that thing? Can I move this?
I don't know. It's probably, I should have measured it, but it is a full plate if you look at it.
It's probably, 3 feet by 4 feet? Well, the frame is
2 by 3 feet.
Yeah, it's probably 2 by 3, I'll bet.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And technology being what it is. This is Secretariat, the great horse, 3-year-old from 1973.
Wasn't that the last Triple Crown winner?
The first one to break the Triple Crown in about a quarter century before that.
Oh, okay.
They've had several since. But no horse has ever matched this one. This is the Belmont. There's the Kentucky Derby and the Preakness, and then there's the Belmont.
Uh-huh.
And the Belmont is a little longer. It's 1.25 miles.
Okay.
And this is Secretariat with this jockey, Ron Turcotte riding it. 31 lengths.
Yeah, we can see the
number 2.
Wow.
That's the photo finish.
Oh, yeah. There's not much of a photo finish when they're that far back.
Yeah. And if you look along the railing, Ron Turcotte, the little jockey, has written that Secretariat is the greatest horse of all time.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And he dated it back in 1973.
Wow.
Yeah. I've got one pair of horseshoes, titanium from Secretariat, and it's a note from the owner, Miss Penny. Some other things about it at home.
So you've got more than just Mormon stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. A lot of stuff.
In fact, let me ask you this. If you were to estimate your Mormon versus non-Mormon collection, what would you estimate the percentage would be?
Well, it's probably about half and half.
Oh, is it half and half?
Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. We've got well over 1 million items. I think it's approaching 1.5 million now.
Wow.
And about half of it's LDS and about half of it's not. I've been donating a lot of things to the church over the years. So we've taken a lot of things up over the 2 missions and now starting another mission.
A third mission.
Third mission, yeah. We did one of the old archives. And then we did, in fact, I was taking up U-Haul book boxes. I'd take 8 up on Mondays and bring 5 back or 6 on Friday when I go back. In between, I'd be looking for LDS stuff in our books because we have over 250,000 books. And at any rate, I was noticing that they were only taking about 2 or 3 boxes a week, and I guess I complained or something. And Elder Jensen, Bartlett Jensen, was church historian, and he brought me in and talked to me about it. He says, I says, well, I just wonder if you're really taking much. He says, well, Elder Ashworth, we're taking 20 to 25%, and you're filling in a lot of gaps.
Okay.
So after that, I felt fine. I didn't care what they took. So we took about 140,000 items up on the 2 missions.
That's crazy.
Yeah, we started in 2006, and then by 2008, my senior came in and he says, Elder Ashworth, your stuff is clogging our system. He said, we need to call this to an end because we've got to get an exact list. So we're going to take the brethren when we move everything across the street to the church history library.
Oh, okay.
So I knew that was the end of that mission. He says, if we need you again, we'll call you. Well, I was out for about 8 months between the 2 missions. And it was while I was out that I was, I used to have a real nasty habit of reading and driving.
That sounds like
on long stretches, and I don't do that.
Yeah, I wouldn't. It doesn't sound safe.
Too many close calls. But when my wife is in the car with me, I'll ask her to read, and sometimes she'll do it. And she was reading a book by Susan Easton Black.
Okay.
Who's a friend. She's been in here before. And anyway, it was a book on Emma Smith, and it had an outline of Emma's life in the front of the book. And I had my wife reading it because she don't want to get in the car with me, reading. So it was on one of those long stretches. We had relatives in Las Vegas, and we were coming out of Vegas. And she was reading it, and it said, March 6, 1833, a prophet writes a letter to Emma saying, Brother so-and-so says we should donate our cross plow to help the poor. And then she went on to a couple other entries, and I said, well, wait a minute, dear. It took me a minute, Joe. And I said, read me that first entry. And she did, brothers, so-and-so. I said, well, that was the first forgery I bought from Hoffman. That shouldn't be in there. It's Susan Easton Black's book. We joked about that since.
Oh, that's funny.
But Marlon Jensen had given me his home phone number, and he says, don't use it unless it's a real emergency. But I figured, well, I used it twice. I used it once when the Provo Tabernacle was on fire, and I woke him up, and he didn't know anything about it. And then I used it earlier to call him about Susan Easton Black's book. I says, it looks like Hoffman's stuff started to creep into our history. It's been 20 years.
Oh, wow.
I said, if you call me again, maybe we ought to start out by getting a list of everything we can come up with that says.
Yeah.
So a week later, I get called on my second mission, this one to the church history library. Elder Jensen just sent me an email, called me on the mission. And he said, I'm going to put you in charge of our Mark Hoffman collection because I think you're eminently qualified.
I think
which I didn't take as a great compliment. But that's what we did for the first 2 or 3 months, is try to track all this stuff down.
Yeah, so
and we had some interesting experiences. One of them was we couldn't find the salamander.
What year was this? This would have been in the 2000s.
Well, this would have been 2009 when they dedicated the church history library. President Monson was alive then and dedicated it. And we got invited to the dedication, so that was kind of fun. But I started working on that because that was my calling originally on that second mission, was
Uh-huh.
let's haul all of his stuff together. And so
Uh-huh.
we couldn't find the salamander letter. And
Oh, really?
yeah, the original forgery. And anyway, Dean Jesse suggested, good old friend, he suggested, well, why don't you check the First Presidency's vault? Because that's a lot of things that are missing. They end up over there.
Oh, that's funny.
And President Hinckley had just passed away, and I'd worked with President Hinckley in the 80s.
Uh-huh.
And I thought, well, maybe the prophet had it brought over there.
Uh-huh.
Sure enough, that's where we found it.
Oh, wow.
It was there. And they had a young sister missionary that brought it over in a briefcase. It was kind of like you read about the football that goes with the president, you know.
Uh-huh.
This young missionary, she was really taking charge of this thing and
Uh-huh.
really careful. And she brought over the Grandin contract too, which was another Hoffman fake. They were both together.
Oh, so explain the Grandin contract is for people who aren't.
He'd made that fake too, and I'd never seen it except in the magazine when it was published.
Oh, wow.
In the end.
So E.B. Grandin was the guy who published the very first Book of Mormon.
Yes, the first Book of Mormon. And so that was important because I had remembered seeing this, some 20 so years before.
Uh-huh.
And it seemed like the salamander letter had a blind stamp. You know, it's a stamp without ink and impression on the page. And any rate, it seemed like it had the term E.B. Grandin, which is one of the little things Hoffman liked to do, is to authenticate his stuff in case somebody gets really smart and wants to look. Okay. And I remember that, and I said, well, the little missionary, lady missionary, brought it over to the New Church History Library, and we went into one of the rooms where the sun was coming through the window. And there were about 6 of us sitting around, and here's Elder Ashworth trying to find this E.B. Grandin. And I looked, and I moved it around and stuff. They were looking at me like,
so you had purchased this originally and then donated it to the church?
No, I was offered it, and I passed up on it.
Oh, okay.
I went to Steve Christensen, who was killed.
Right.
First palm, and donated it to the church.
Yeah.
It was offered to me after President Hinckley. Lynn Jacobs had offered it to President Hinckley first, and then he tried to blackmail him at the meeting of it in LA and said, we're going to publish it. And President Hinckley just kindly opened, the door for him. And he's going out the door. He says, well, we'll offer this to Brent Ashworth. And this is in Salamander because I wasn't there. And says,
the book.
Yeah, the book. And President Hinckley said, according to their what they were told, well, that's all right. He's a friend of ours, which I was glad to hear. I was a friend. I've always been a friend of the church.
Right.
So anyway, that was the gist of it. Hoffman offered it to me because he didn't find it. Remember, it was Lynn Jacobs that found it.
Okay.
And so he offered it to me for $50,000, same price that Lynn was offering President Hinckley. Turned down.
Oh.
And I turned it down, but I turned it down because the price was too high, A, and B, I thought it was a forgery.
Oh.
Yeah. Now, I was wrong. There are only 2 of Hoffman's things I said were forgeries, but this was one of them, the salamander. And the reason being is I just read the Chase affidavit in Mormonism Unveiled.
Oh, by
big 18.
Philastus Hurlbut.
Yeah, 1834.
An ED.
First anti-Mormon book.
Yeah.
And it has an old toad jumping out of the box. So
yeah.
Salamander. And I thought, oh, salamander toad. It should be this, this is a forgery.
Right.
I was still wrong. I thought it was an early forgery. I didn't know Mark had done it.
Right.
But the funny part was that we needed to find the list. We needed to find it. It was brought over by this sister missionary, and we're sitting around, about 6 of us. And Elder Ashworth was trying to find the E.B. Grandin that I remembered, and have identified it as the original fake, and I couldn't see it. I kept twisting it around and showing it here. And finally, out of frustration, I said, well, let's go into one of the offices what doesn't have any windows, and just turn on the regular lights. We did, and I could see it.
Oh, wow.
I could see it. And it
see
wasn't just
the blind stamp you're talking about?
Yeah, it was a whole paragraph.
Oh, wow.
Under E.B. Grandin, but that whole paragraph, like it was taken from the Book of Mormon, setup.
Like they had laid it down on the Book of Mormon or something. Yeah.
Well, or that it was just a page that was thrown away, and they decided to, Harris decided to write a letter on it. And it had more type on it than I'd remembered from 20 years before.
Wow.
And so that's how I started the second mission. We found that, and we found that is authentication piece stamped into it, and of course they showed me the Grandin node, and so anyway, that got me started. And we started hauling stuff over across, into the new church history library. I don't know if you know, on the second floor they have 4 long tables about 50 feet long.
Okay.
In between offices, there's like 4 different sections. And we had those stacked up 4 and 5 feet tall with my stuff, all four of those tables.
Oh my goodness.
And I'd go up and people would come out of the offices and they'd say, "Are you Elder Ashworth?" Of course, I had my tag on. And I said, "Yes." And they'd say, "Well, can I have this book? This is my family history, And I says, "Well, you'll have to ask the church. It's theirs now."
Right. Yeah.
And so after a while, Elder Jensen just said, and Rick Turley, who was his assistant, just said, "Ashworth, don't come up here anymore. We'll just send a truck down once a week and pick up what you're doing." Yeah, that was a lot easier,
Because you've got 1 million items total?
Yeah, but 250,000 are books and stuff, and pamphlets, and and other things like that. And other things are photographs, artifacts, and national stuff and so on. Anyway, so they just sent a truck down once a week, which saved a lot of time, on my part, and a lot of angst.
Because you didn't have to do all the driving. They did.
Yeah, they did the driving. But it was about that time that my wife heard that the warden of the new, it was new then, the new prison down in Gunnison wanted to build a prison library. And she told him on the phone, "Well, my husband's got a bunch of books. I'm sure he'd donate them." So I called the next day and I said, "Well, my wife got hold of you." And he said, "Well, yeah, you got some books. I'm told you're going to give them to us." And I said, "Yeah, I'm happy to." He says, "Well, we don't want anything on guns, bombs, women, or children. Well, we'll take anything else. And as long as it's in English, we don't care if it's old or new or whatever, on any subject." And I accept those. And so anyway, I spent all summer with the church bringing a truck down once a week to pick up theirs, but the prison hadn't picked up theirs, and I got to about 2,000 of those U-Haul boxes full of stuff for the prison. And I finally called the warden up, and I says, "Warden, I got your books, about 2,000 of those U-Haul, book boxes." He says, "I'll be there in the morning." He came the next day with 2 of the biggest trucks and 4 of the biggest guys in the striped suits that you'd ever seen before. And what had taken me all summer long, they had cleared out of there in about 20 minutes.
Wow.
I thought, man, I wish I'd had that.
Yeah, no kidding.
And so it was about 15,000, 20,000 bucks. And, I was happy to donate them, although during the time I was putting it was a book for the church, book for the prison. That's the way it went all summer, And so the church was picking theirs up. So I told the warden a story, though. I says, there was one book I was really tempted to throw into your pile. And it was the world's 30 greatest escapes.
Oh.
I decided I'm not going to do that. If you find that, you'll question all these books, and I don't want them back. So we both had a good laugh over that.
Yeah.
And any rate, a couple years later, they sent Hoffman down,
to
Gunnison with Dan Lafferty, his roommate, cellmate. And anyway, it really hit my funny bone. It shouldn't. I shouldn't laugh at other people's misfortune. But I thought, he's going to be one of the ones that's going to want to use my library. And he's probably going to see my name, stamped in a few of those books, because some of them I used to do that.
Right.
And so I thought, boy, there is some justice in the universe. So it got me kind of laughing. But anyway, that was how we started the second mission. We spent about 2 or 3 months gathering up every Hoffman thing we could and made a big list of them up there.
Okay.
So we didn't want them thrown into church history another 20 years.
Yeah.
Down the road.
So when was your second mission? What year approximately?
Well, it was the first one was only from 2006 through 8. And then
this is your first senior mission.
Yeah, senior mission. Yeah, these are senior missions. And the second one was from 2009 till about 2013, I think.
Okay.
We finished.
So 20 years later, we were still using Hoffman forgeries in our books.
Well,
I mean, not
they
on
started
purpose, but
creeping back in.
yeah,
Let's
yeah,
put
yeah.
it that way.
Okay, so now they have a Hoffman collection. Do you think they've identified all of the Hoffman
No,
forgeries?
but I think we did about as much as we could do at the
Okay.
time. But I think they got a lot of them, you know.
Okay.
And there've been one or two that have come up since then.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, one was that one from Price, which I think was on a document I'd given Hoffman that was, you know, it was during the time they found. I don't know if you remember that metal John D. Lee thing that was found.
Oh, well, yeah, I know. Will Bagley called it the Dead Lee scroll.
The Dead Lee scroll.
Yeah, it was a lead plate, basically, or lead
There was
scroll.
an authenticating document that Hoffman had created.
He's created his own authentication
using a document he gotten from me, because I got a lot of papers out of Price. So I was assistant county attorney down there.
Oh.
They were dumping them all when I first started in the 70s, and I asked them if I could have some of them, and they said, "Well, take 5 of the ledgers and then some of the papers." And so I traded over time to other collectors, including Hoffman, some of that stuff.
Huh.
So he used evidently one of the sheets, according to Rick Turley, to create an authentication on that. Dead Lee.
So it was funny because Will Bagley, I interviewed him before he passed away, and because George Throckmorton had done, here, I'm going to pop in my picture here, so that we can, oh, no, I'm not. I have to do it that way, I guess. Hopefully we're in there. But anyway, he had, here, we'll try it this way. I don't know if this is going to work because I can't see what we're doing here.
Okay. Wow.
But Will Bagley had, he still thought it was legit, even though George Throckmorton had authenticated it as a forgery. Yeah, which I thought was crazy.
Well, I knew there was a difference of opinion, but they did find this letter that went with it, and the letter was, I think, one that he'd gotten from me, because it was from, the blank sheet or something that he typed on it, the authentication. Anyway, that's enough fun.
Yeah.
But
well, we got to look at this Lincoln thing over here. Tell me about that.
Well, that Lincoln was painted by a friend of mine, David Millman, who's been the art teacher at Spanish Fort Junior High for years.
Okay.
All my grandkids went through his art class out there, because many of them live in Spanish Fort. He's a wonderful artist, as you can tell.
Yeah.
And right over to the right is
stick around here.
Yeah, it's a little hard.
Oh, we got Iwo Jima.
Famous flag raising.
Here, I'm gonna have to see if I can zoom in on that.
This one's signed by the 3 survivors that they took off. When Joe Rosenthal took that picture, it got back to the States, and when they started to produce it on the front covers of newspapers all over, it became the most famous picture of World War II. And President Roosevelt ordered that there's 6 men in that picture, and he ordered that they bring them all home to go on a bond drive.
Okay.
7th War bond drive. But by the time they got back there 3 weeks later, 3 of the 6 had been killed.
Oh, no.
So they drugged the 3 they had there, Ira Hayes, Randy Gagnon, and John Bradley. And they've all signed this particular picture.
Oh, really?
It kind of makes it kind of a rare one. They've since found out, the Marine Corps, that the only one that actually is in that picture that raised that flag is the Pima Indian, Ira Hayes, with his hands up like this.
Oh, okay.
The other two had helped with an earlier flag raising, which was too small a flag, and it was ordered to go to the ship and get a bigger flag. Okay, so they did. And anyway, I don't know if you can see the thing right below it, but that's a drawing by Edith Head, the Hollywood designer, of a dress that she did for Audrey Hepburn for
it's a short dress
for Breakfast at Tiffany.
Okay.
Yeah, and she gave it to Audrey, and Audrey signed.
Hey, sorry about the abrupt end there. Had a tech issue. My camera just quit recording for I don't know why. But at any rate, we're going to continue the conversation with Brent Ashworth and continue to tour his memorabilia shop. So in our next conversation, we're going to talk about the Titanic, World War II, lots of other fun stuff. Thanks for listening, and I hope you continue to enjoy Gospel Tangents. Consider becoming a Patreon or go to gospeltangents.com/shop, and you can get a cool tie, a hat, or even a nice mug. You can also get a sweatshirt. So check it out at gospeltangents.com/shop.